No one started a snail farming business as a professional. Yes, you heard me right. None of us ever started this business as a professional. We all started as a beginner, from one step to the other, from one step to the other, till we get to this level we are. You also, who is a snail farmer, you also who is intending to start this business, can start as a beginner, and with time, you get to that level you want to get to. So in this video, I'm actually going to be sharing with you a step-by-step guide on how you can start a profitable snail farming business as a beginner in this 2023 and what be successful in it in no distant time. So this is actually for intending snail farmers and snail lovers who actually want to start a snail farm business, but they don't know what to do. They don't even know how to go about it. They don't know how to get started. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you how you can start one and be successful in it. So to start a profitable snail farming business in 2023, the first thing you need to do is that you need to get trained. Yes, you need to be trained by a knowledgeable and an experienced snail farmer who have actually been into the business and knows what he or she is doing. This aspect is very, very vital and important as a starter or a beginner in snail farming, but yet is still one of the most neglected aspects by those who want to go into this business. But the simple truth is that there is no business venture that you want to start today and you are having a limited knowledge about that business that will actually strive and be successful over time. So don't always jump the process. Make sure that you are well trained so that you will be knowledgeable about the business you actually want to start. Because if you are not trained and you believe that probably you just want to start small and then grow from that, it might not really work out for you. Some persons might succeed, but some might not actually succeed. So no matter how small you think you want to start and be learning as you are progressing, the first thing you actually need to do is to make sure you get trained so that you will know the basic, at least the basic things that you ought to know in the business. Then as you are practicing, as you are into the business, you will now be perfecting those knowledge. You will now be perfecting those knowledge in the snail farming industry or business. So the first thing ever you need to do as a beginner or a starter is to make sure that you get trained by a knowledgeable and an experienced snail farmer. So even if you are actually not the one that is actually going to be managing the business, probably you are setting up this business for someone else to manage on your behalf, or you are not around and you have someone else that's supposed to manage it for you, it's still very, very important and necessary that you enroll that particular person to be trained by an experienced and knowledgeable snail farmer. If not, if that person lack the knowledge that he or she need to have to be successful in the business, there will always be an issue. There will always be problem. He or she will keep encountering problem in the business, and at the end, you yourself, who is the owner of the business, who have set up the business, who have spent a lot of money in setting up this business, will be the one to lose. So don't always risk it that they will learn or that you will learn in the process of time. That is not the best practice. So after you must have been trained and now you have gotten the required knowledge that you need to get to start this business, then the next thing you need to do, which is the number 2 step now, is to do what? Get your farm constructed. Now you need to decide on which type of snail housing you want to use. Are you going to be using the greenhouse system, which is the extensive system, or you are going to be using the intensive system, which is the block pens? And this will actually be dependent on the what? On your financial ability, because all hands are not equal. There are some person who has a lot of money and they want to set up the business fully, and some has don't have all the money, but they just want to get started and then grow from there. So your financial capability or capacity will actually determine to an extent the kind of housing you want to use. For instance, if you have all the money and you want to set up this business and start the business in a commercial way, most persons sometimes are always scared. Most time when they call me for advice, they will say, is it better I start small and grow, or do you advise me to start big as much as I can actually afford? The thing is that I don't know why you need to be scared. I don't know why you are afraid. In as much as you have been trained and you know, you can tell yourself that you have actually gotten the required knowledge, at least the basic ones that you need to know about this business to be successful in it. So why being scared? Why being afraid of starting big? I'm not saying that it's bad for you to start small and grow from there. But what I'm trying to say that if you have the money and you know that you can handle this thing, you have gotten the required knowledge, then you can start as much as you can afford and grow from there. So in the construction, if you have the money, you can start with the greenhouse and construct a big greenhouse and then stock your farm. But if you don't have all the money, you can also go for what? Go for the intensive system, which is the use of the block pen. You can get your block pen constructed depending on your financial level. If you want to have is something that can accommodate 200 pieces of snail or 500 pieces of snail, then you start from there. But if you have the money and you want to make it bigger, you want to construct a greenhouse or an intensive system that can accommodate about 2,000, 3,000 capacity, then you also get started and get your farm snail housing constructed. So once you are done constructing your snail housing, and the next thing you now need to talk about is about stocking. But before you go into the stocking of your snails, you must make sure that everything is in order. You have constructed your farm, the farm is the environment is ready. If it's a block pen, that is intensive system, you must make sure that you must have treated your soil. You must make sure that you have actually introduced your mulching materials and that the environment is now well conducive for you to stock your snails. Then if it's the greenhouse that you are constructing, you must to also make sure that it has been well constructed. And mind you, if you're actually constructing the greenhouse, you might not be knowledgeable as a beginner, no matter how you have been trained to get it constructed. So in that case, I would actually recommend you use someone who is into the business, who knows about how to construct this thing, to get it constructed for you. Don't go and use anyhow person. Some person to tell you that I will know how to do it. All these online farmers will know how we can do it, and at the end of the day, they will use wrong materials to construct it, and it will fall back on you, who is the owner of the business, who has actually spent a lot of money. I'm saying this thing because I'm into it. I visited a lot of farm, and at the end of the day, I will discover that the person that did it, sometimes they use the wrong material they are not supposed to use. Sometimes there is little errors, little mistakes that they did, and it all boils down that probably they are not knowledgeable about it, or someone that the person that constructed it is someone who has not been doing, who has no experience about it. So get your greenhouse ready. Make sure that all the required crops and plants that need to be inside has been planted, and that the environment is now conducive and ready for you to stock. So once it is ready, then you now go over to the third step, which is number 3 step, which is the stocking of your farm. So in stocking of your farm, you also need to take into consideration a particular species you need to stock, and this will actually be determined by your location and the market demand. This is how I categorize, and this is what I actually advise and teach people. So it should be determined by your location and what your market demand. Like here in Nigeria, where I'm from, where I reside, we actually have 2 major and popular species here, which is the AM, which is the Argentina marginata, and the AA, which is Argentina argentina. So in these 2 species, most snail farmers rear both in their farm, while some rear one particular one they prefer over the other, or that actually strive better in their location more than the other, and that the market also demand. So you must consider, like I have a friend who is from Iran, and this particular species they rear, or he rears in that place, is quite different from what we have here in Nigeria. And sometimes if you go to, like if you have visited Ghana, if you go to Ghana, you also find out that their species is quite different. Most of their species, they actually rear the AA species, and they strive well in their location. And while here in Nigeria also, the AA strive, but not as much as the AM. So the AM tends to strive more here in our location, but the A also strive, but it's not that like in my side, like the southern east part of Nigeria where I come from, is mostly AM that you will find. And you will now find out that okay, the market demands this, based on my location, this particular species thrives well. So I don't really or necessarily need to start starting with a species that will be I will not have actually buyers, or that will not actually thrive well in my environment. So you need to look at your location and then the market demand before you can actually decide on the species to go for. But what I'm advising, and for you to be best and succeed in the business, you don't necessarily need to listen to what people are saying that might not actually be true. I'm not telling you not to take advice. It's good to take advice. But even in that advice, analyze it and critically look at it, and then compare and consider if this advice will actually benefit me or not. But for me, I would advise that the first thing you must do is that you look at your location, then look at the market demand. This will actually enable you to know the most profitable one that you can start with, that you will not regret in future. So once you have actually decided and concluded on a particular species that you want to rear in your farm, then the next thing to do is to ask yourself, where do I get these species from? Where do I get this breeding stock from? Because most times, some persons make the mistake of buying anywhere they see, and that is not the best practice. So the best thing to do is to buy your breeding stock from already snail farmers, or better still, if you actually can get from those that picks directly from the bush, you can buy from them, as long as you can identify the species. Because most time the challenge there is that those persons that picks directly from the bush don't know anything about those species. So if you that is buying cannot actually identify the species, it could be that they're actually selling AA for you while you actually want to buy AM. And because you also cannot identify the species, you just by thinking that is the right one. So that is why if you can identify, it's fine, good enough. But if you cannot, you can actually look for a snail farmer and buy from the person. Why? Because those breeding stock that you are buying are already in a well conducive and in a well conducive environment that are well striving for the snails. But it is a no for you to actually buy from the market. Don't actually go to the market and buy from those people that sell in the market. The reason is simply because those snails you see in the market that are selling has been subjected to harsh weather conditions. It has been exposed to a lot of things and a lot of factors. So it will not be the best idea for you to buy from them and then go and stock in your farm. If you do so, you might not actually be lucky enough. Some will survive, while most of them will actually die. And even if those ones that tend to survive, it will take them time for them to regain themselves well again, because of they have been exposed to a lot of things, and before they can even start producing for you. So the best place to get your breeding stock is from snail farmers. So once you have been able to get your stocks and you have stocked them in your farm, the next thing to do is to start the day-to-day management of the business as you have been taught from the training that you attended. You must have been imparted a lot of knowledge on how to manage the snails, on how to take care of them, on how to feed them, on how to clean the place. So this is now when you apply those knowledge in the day-to-day running. So you bring back those knowledge that you have actually been taught and start putting it into practice. Yeah, you now know that if you are actually using the intensive system, which is the block pen or the wooden pen, whichever, you now know that you ought to clean them almost every day to maintain the best practice. You also need to know that whether you are using the intensive or the greenhouse, you also need to know that you need to water them constantly. And most importantly, if it is during the dry season, just like this period we are now, you know that it must actually be like twice, early morning and lately in the evening hours, in order to maintain a conducive environment. But if it's normally maybe normal time, like when rain falls, you can water just once a day and yet they are still okay. Then you now need to know the kind of food you need to be giving them, and all these things are what you must have learned in the course of the training. You need to know how to feed them, the kind of food to give them, and not necessarily that you are giving them one particular food every day. You can decide, okay, today I'm actually going to be giving them fruit. Maybe tomorrow I will give them maybe formulated food, or give them another variety of fruits, because we have a lot of fruit that they eat. You can decide to give them, maybe let's say for example pawpaw today, tomorrow you can decide to give them like watermelon, the next day it can be leaves, it can be formulated feed, it can be calcium feed, depending on how you have been taught and the best you know that they can actually they actually like and they eat very very well. So as you keep practicing, you are learning and you are perfecting your knowledge. The truth is that sometimes you must make mistakes and you will learn from those mistakes. None of us started as a professional. We all started as a beginner, and sometimes we make mistakes and we learn from those mistakes. So don't be angry with yourself. Don't be unhappy when you make mistakes in the process. Yes, there is room for mistake and you actually learn from those mistakes. So you keep practicing, and as time is going, you are advancing in your knowledge, you are gaining more experience. So once you are practicing all these things, the next thing is that your snails will start laying eggs. So once your snails start laying eggs, this is now when you now need to put in more works, because this is now where you make money. Because as they keep reproducing, that's where you now, as they reproduce, they grow and you start selling, you are making more money. So once they start laying, if actually we are using the greenhouse system, you might not necessarily have any issue. Why? Because in the greenhouse they lay there and hatch there. Sometimes you might not even know that they have started laying till when you must have started seeing the baby snails. That is when you will now know that so this snails has laid and they have hatched. But if we are actually using the intensive system, which is the block pen, or you are using tire, or you are using wooden pen, whichever one, then you must know that you actually need to get the eggs out. You actually need to incubate the eggs and also hatch them successfully. So based on the knowledge you have got, you now know that okay, I need to check for eggs almost every day or once in 2 days. Then you get them out. You now know that the best soil for me to use in incubation of these eggs so that they will actually hatch well is the loamy soil, which shouldn't be too dry, shouldn't be too watery, just normal humidity, and then you incubate on that. You can now get a separate pen where you incubate them, or better still, you use disposable place to pit them and incubate them there. But you must know that they shouldn't, whether you are putting it in disposable place, you shouldn't keep it in a place that is too hot or that is too dry. No, it should be in an environment that is well conducive. So once you have been able to incubate these eggs and they hatch successfully, the next thing is to do what? Take care of this hatchling. You must give more consideration to them. You must give more attention to this hatchling so that they will not die off. And most importantly, some persons don't even know how to take care of the hatchling. Some persons don't know what to feed those hatchling as they are very tender. You can start with soft fruits like ripe pawpaw. You can start with watermelon. You can start with some leaves, but they don't really eat that leaf much. Then, more importantly, calcium must be necessary, must be very ready for you to give them. Don't bother yourself, because sometimes people will call me that their hatchling are not eating. They do eat, but the thing is that you might not really notice it. Most often time, when you must have packed a lot of food for them, they are small, so they eat little, but you might not really feel it that they are eating, but they are eating. So the thing is that you don't necessarily need to put a lot of food for them. Just put little. You see that they are eating small, and start managing them. But you must give them closer attention because they are tender. So as they are growing, you cannot be transferring them to other pens. As they are growing, you cannot be transferring them to other pens. So this is how you can actually manage and take care of your hatchling and the snails in general. And then the last thing I want to say is that you should not be in too hurry to make money in the business. It's actually a lucrative business, but it needs time. It's not something that you start today and next week or 1 month and 2 months and you're already making millions. And this is why so many persons got deceived online. Those online farmers that does not have any farm anywhere, they don't farm this thing, they are just picking information from what people that are into it are saying, and they are deceiving others online. They will tell you that start it, you are making millions. I'm telling you now, as someone who is into it, it's not as if you will not make the million, but it will not come as fast as you might expect or you might think. So you must condition your mind that this is a business that actually needs time. You got to be patient in the business, because sometimes most persons give up on the way. Why? Because they cannot wait. They are not patient, and it's not what they have been told. So they tend to give up. They tend to be like, this is not what I was actually expecting. This is not what I was told. But what I'm advising and telling you today is that you must be patient, and you must condition your mind that it's not a big and get rich business. Be patient with it, and in no distant time, with just a matter of time, you actually reap the profit. And that is when you will now be smiling and you'll be like, wow, so this thing is actually profitable like this. So that is how you can actually start and be successful in your snail farming business. So if you have not joined our Telegram channel, where we have a lot of snail farmers, we discuss about snail farming. Anyone that has issue brings it up, and from there we'll look for a possible solution to give to the person. You can also use the link in the description of this video to join the group. If you have not also subscribed, do well to subscribe to this channel and turn on the bell notification icon, so that whenever I release an awesome video, you actually be notified. So this is a step-by-step how you can actually start your snail farming and be successful in it in this 2023. Thank you for watching. See you in our next video. Bye for now.